You're hanging out after hours with Matt Anderson, presented by Inside the Gamecocks.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Late Night Gamecocks show. I am your host, Matt Anderson, and I'm your source for all things Gamecocks After Dark. Got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight on the show. Really excited for everybody popping into the channel right now. I think that the biggest news, like, literally just broke about 3 minutes ago. Juice Wells has announced that he will be coming back to South Carolina next year. This news is literally happening right before us right now. Antoine Wells at Juice Wells on, it looks like Twitter, just posted, "Clear in the air. I'm not playing and not holding out for the NFL draft. I'll be back next year." So literally that post just happened about 5 minutes ago on Juice Wells' Twitter account. If you want to go see it for yourself, it's at Juice Wells, one word, Juice, and then replace the E in Wells with the number 3, and that is Juice right now, just in real time with you. Let's make sure that this is something that is going to happen. But obviously, great news for South Carolina. Next season, that wide receiver room was looking kind of shaky to a certain extent. Let's see. Yeah, this I got to make sure that this is Juice Wells. I think it's Juice Wells. I don't know. Antoine Wells, YouTube at Juice Wells. I think it's legitimate. So Antoine Wells looks like he's coming back to South Carolina. I really want to make sure that this is accurate, though. Getting a little nervous here. All right, let's go back. I'm going to check the Big Spur out. As always, if you're not a member of the Big Spur, highly recommend that you join as soon as you can. Obviously, this is a big week. It's Clemson week. Phil and I were just talking about this a moment ago. This is the best week of the year. Really excited that the Gamecocks will be facing off against the team from the upstate. Big news. I'm getting text messages from people right now telling me that it is real. It is Juice Wells' Twitter account. Guys, I don't do that much Twitter. I don't do that much social media outside of sharing a lot of Instagram reels, and I'm probably one of the most frequent Instagram reel share in the world. But anyway, Juice Wells is back. That really sets up South Carolina well next year. I wouldn't hold your breath for Spencer Rattler coming back, but I think that if you kind of read the tea leaves here and what happened in name, image, and likeness, there was a sizable donation that has been reported to be $1 million that came in Friday night. So I don't know. Maybe Juice Wells got a little bit of that cash. Obviously South Carolina needs him next season. Breaking in Lenore Sellers, I think that Juice has seen Lenore Sellers up close and personal, and that is taking nothing away from Spencer Rattler. For my money, Spencer Rattler is the very best quarterback to play at South Carolina from a talent perspective. What is up, Matt Anderson? He threw me for a loop there. Go Cox. What a name. That is fantastic. It looks like Phil was just showing some Twitter stuff with Juice Wells. So that's super exciting. Some other exciting things that are going on in the Gamecock world right now. We'll talk about football a little bit later, but South Carolina got some hardware. They brought hardware back home from the Arizona tip-off. I don't know if you guys stayed awake. If you stayed awake on Friday night, or I guess it was Saturday morning, when South Carolina finally tipped off against DePaul in Phoenix at the Arizona tip-off. South Carolina won that game 73-68. Gamecocks had a 9-point lead at halftime. gave some of those points back in the second half, held on for the victory. South Carolina, just looking at the box score here, for those who didn't get to watch it live, South Carolina, might have had what could be their worst 3-point shooting outing of the season against DePaul. They shot 5 of 21 from the 3-point line, 23.8%. Shot pretty poorly from the free throw line, 20 of 34, 58.8%, but had enough resolve to get the win. I think that Gamecocks coming from South Carolina all the way to Arizona, tipping off well after midnight Eastern Standard Time, probably had something to do with those shooting numbers. Michi Johnson was the story of the game for the Gamecocks against DePaul. 24 points, 7-11 from the free throw line, 1 of 7 from 3-point line, but 8 of 16 overall from the field. Added 5 rebounds, 2 steals, only 1 turnover. Michi did foul out of the game, so that was interesting. BJ Mack and Miles Studi probably had their worst games of the season as Gamecocks, but it was great to see Josh Gray get back in on the action. Josh Gray had 8 points and 7 rebounds in that game against DePaul. Gamecocks ended up out-rebounding DePaul 38-29, which has been something that Gamecocks have done a really good job of this season, which is rebounding. Looking at the turnovers, not only did the Gamecocks shoot the ball poorly, but they also had 17 turnovers against DePaul. Not a recipe for success at all, but Gamecocks were fortunate enough to get that victory. So moving on to Sunday, and that game did tip off at 7 p.m. Much better tip-off time. The Gamecocks beat a pretty good Grand Canyon team, in my opinion. I think Grand Canyon's probably going to have a chance at the NCAA tournament. Probably not as an at-large team, but have a really good opportunity to win their conference and get to the NCAA tournament this season. Grand Canyon got to the NCAA tournament last year. Bryce Drew is their head coach. Obviously, he coached at Vanderbilt for a number of years, SEC experience, great pedigree. His dad was a phenomenal college or high school basketball coach. I don't know if he coached college. I think he did coach college as well. So Bryce Drew, which is Scott Drew's brother. We all know that Scott Drew is at Baylor and doing a heck of a good job there. But Gamecocks kind of rebounded from that tough outing against DePaul. Won the game 75-68. Gamecocks were winning by 1 point at halftime and ended up outscoring Grand Canyon 45-39 in the second half to get a 7-point win. Gamecocks got up by as many as, I think, 9, 10, 11 points in that game last night. And Grand Canyon was pesky. They definitely hung around. I thought that the team showed a lot of resolve in this one as well. 7 of 17 from the 3-point line. So the Gamecocks shot 41.2% from 3, 54% from just field goals from anywhere. So very, very respectable numbers, and 87.5% from the free throw line. The story of the game was BJ Mack. For all of BJ Mack's shortcomings, he has had a knack for putting the ball in the basket this year. Can't imagine where the Gamecocks would be without their transfers, especially BJ Mack, Miles Studi, and Talon Cooper. Those guys have really done a good job for the Gamecocks. I still think that the super sixth man, Jacoby Wright, is having a major impact at South Carolina. Really happy for that kid. I talked to a lot of folks that surround the Gamecock basketball program. I talked to a lot of folks that played college basketball or around the college game, and I think everybody is very, very impressed with Jacoby Wright. Some people say he might be the best pure basketball player on the team, which is really cool to see. Jacoby Wright added 10 points and 3 assists, shot 4 of 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. Just good game there. Miles Studi got back on track with 12 points. Miles Studi is probably having his roughest stretch from 3 right now. He started super hot of the season, but Gamecocks are looking pretty good right now. I did pull up the KenPom page for the Gamecocks, and I'm getting that. It's refreshing right now. But the Gamecocks opened the season at KenPom ranked 66th in the country. They are now ranked 58th in the country as of today. Gamecocks are projected to go 19-12 overall and 8-10 in the SEC. Very, very respectable numbers from KenPom's analytics. The Gamecocks have the 63rd best offense and the 72nd best defense in the country. Both of those are above average for a college basketball team. And they're doing a really good job shooting the ball right now. Between the Grand Canyon win and the Virginia Tech win, those are really two great wins for the program to start out. It's exactly what Lamont Paris needed when you think about scheduling this year. It needed to schedule enough games to potentially get some quad 2, quad 1 opportunities, maybe some quad 3s, but you just can't lose your quad 3s and your quad 4 games. And so far the Gamecocks are doing a great job there. A little bit of a break before November 28th. That's when the Gamecocks will welcome the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to the Colonial Life Arena. If you guys can get out there, please go support this team. If you're a fan of social media at all, or you follow the Gamecock men's basketball Instagram page, they are begging the kids are begging the fans to come out and support them and to fill the arena up. They want to sell out. This is a team that should be celebrated. South Carolina against Notre Dame. The Gamecocks will be favored in that game. Right now, KenPom has the Gamecocks winning by 12. They follow that up on Friday, December 1st, with a game against George Washington. And then Wednesday, December 6th, they travel to Clemson, which will likely be the Gamecocks' biggest test of the non-conference schedule. So get out there and support the Gamecocks if you can. So it's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I don't know if the game time's been. Let's see if they have the game time yet. Tuesday, November 28th. Let's see here. The game is at 7 p.m. If you can't get there, the game will be on SEC Network, and we'll talk much more about that game and the rest of the non-conference slate as the next couple days progress. We'll be back on Thursday night with this show. And then we will obviously be back 1 week from tonight, and we will talk about everything Gamecock related. Some quick notes here on the men's basketball team before we completely move away. BJ Mack is averaging 16 points per game on the season. Michi Johnson, 14.4. Miles Studi, 12 points per game. Jacoby Wright, 9.2. And Talon Cooper, 9 points. Got to highlight Talon Cooper here. He's just a fantastic basketball player and someone I really enjoy watching play. But averaging 9 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and 0.8 turnovers per game. Just a ridiculously small turnover rate for a guy that has the ball in his hands as often as he does. What's up, Xavier? Good evening from a chilly Winnetachi, Washington. I think that's Winnetachi. I'm going with it. Maybe you give me a pronunciation there, but let's see. I'm in Florence, South Carolina right now, and let's look at the weather. The weather in Florence, South Carolina is 58 degrees. So probably a little warmer than where Xavier is at the moment. Just to tie a bow here on the men's basketball team. The Gamecocks are shooting 39.4% from three-point line this season. Of players that have taken, number of threes, BJ Mack is 39.1%. Michi Johnson, 27.3, not having his best shooting start of the season, but he should rebound from that. Miles Studi is shooting 50% from three. Jacoby Wright, 57.1. Talon Cooper, 42.9. And Zachary Davis, 42.9. And Stephen Clark, 50%. I'm sure he is 1 for 2. So Gamecocks are playing really, really good basketball right now and excited to watch them play. It's been a long time since we've had a really exciting brand of offense, and the Gamecocks are definitely providing that this year. So Winachi. I don't know. Thanks, Xavier. I appreciate it. Everyone that knows me knows I'm terrible at pronunciation. But let's quickly check in on the women's basketball team. I believe that they are playing tonight. NCAA women. Let's see here. Yep. What's up, Randy? Awesome. Good Gamecocks. I agree. Let's see. Are they how about Iowa losing in women's college basketball? got knocked off by the same team that beat them last year. We do have a final. South Carolina women's team defeated South Dakota State at Colonial Life Arena by a score of 78-38. Yeah, girls basketball team is looking really good. Cardoso had 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks tonight. This did snap 3 consecutive games for the Lady Gamecocks, scoring over 100 points. Looking around here, let's see if we have any other no real upsets in the women's game right now. Well, LSU is rebounding from their loss the other night, beating Texas Southern 75-28. But guess what? They aren't the Gamecocks. The Lady Gamecocks are kicking butt. Really quick before we move off basketball, I do want to look at some men's basketball scores. I saw Kentucky was in a dogfight earlier. So Kentucky ended up beating St. Joseph's 96-88 in overtime. Tennessee did beat Syracuse 73-56. Syracuse is not that great of a team this year. So Kentucky won 96-88. St. Joseph's took them to overtime in the Wildcat Challenge. So that's men's basketball right now. Let's quickly let's turn our attention over to some recruiting news. The biggest name right now, and 1 second, Phil, 78-38 ladies final. Thanks, Phil. Looking at Brian Gregory says Lamont is the guy, Xavier. I'm so excited to have a team that can shoot. Yeah, Lamont is the guy, and Xavier might have Sean Miller, and he's doing a pretty decent job there to Xavier, but I am very happy that Lamont Paris is our men's basketball coach. I was talking with my brother actually over the weekend, and just so pleasantly surprised by Lamont Paris, and especially on his side of it, he was saying that he was really surprised by how quickly Lamont Paris is having success, and the offense that he's running, and looks like a really fun coach to play for, and just a guy that coaches that kids love to play for. So that's what my brother his opinion on it is. So I agree with him. Lamont Paris in that quarter zip pullover doing big things. Football recruiting, I guess the big thing to talk about is Cameron Fountain. There was a report today. Phil Kornblut, who I think is fantastic at what he does. There might not be somebody who has covered the Gamecocks and Clemson as long as possible. I mean, as long as Kornblut has. He's been doing this for feels like 30, 40 years at this point. Fountain, did say that he was sticking with Southern Cal. I'm just going to tell you that it's not just me thinking this, but Steve Wiltfong posted, today on the Big Spur that he thought a flip was coming. I know that JC talked about on his show today, Inside the Gamecocks with JB and Phil, that he's not really buying it. A lot of people still think that Cameron Fountain will eventually flip to South Carolina. Just keep monitoring it. Before the report from Phil, I would have said 90% South Carolina. It was a really weird interview to read today. So I'm still hearing good things about Cameron Fountain to South Carolina. Those of you might remember DJ Braswell didn't even have South Carolina in his final 5 before committing to South Carolina. I don't think that Cameron Fountain's someone that's going to intentionally mislead people. I don't know if this is just maybe saying something he didn't really mean to say or didn't think he was saying. I don't know. But I know that South Carolina still feels like they're very much in the game for Cameron Fountain, and we will just have to see how all of it plays out. Looking around here, I know that running back is a big thing for South Carolina right now. Obviously, transfer portal is going to be hopefully good to South Carolina this year in that running back room. Gamecock coaches have not given up on Daniel Hill yet. I have not been told that the details behind the scenes as of this show being recorded, but I do know that the Gamecocks feel like they have a plan at running back. When that kind of thing can be released or it pops up on the news feeds, we'll talk about it. But I do think that the Gamecocks are feeling decent about the running back position going forward. I don't think it's going to be Anthony Carey. I know that Anthony Carey visited a few weeks ago. Maybe it was last 2 weeks ago for the Vanderbilt game. He decommitted from Michigan State today. I don't think it's going to be Anthony Carey. I know that Matthew Fuller is having a fantastic start to his season, or finishing the season now. Gamecocks really feel like they got a really good one there with Matthew Fuller. I think he's getting some ranking boosts across the industry as well. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, when it comes to this recruiting class, I mean, I think Quayshad, I think Scott, I think it's his last name. Let me find his last name again. Phil might have it for me, but Quayshad, is it Davis? I don't know why I'm blanking on this right now. Quayshad Scott. Yes, Quayshad Scott. I think he's ultimately going to flip to South Carolina. I think that he is trending the right way and has been for a long time. So he's going to be a guy the Gamecocks are probably going to get on the recruiting trail. I think they're probably still going to get Cameron Fountain. I know that they have some other guys they're working behind the scenes, but the Gamecock coaching staff is not going to just take somebody to take them this year. They're not just going to take a warm body. The transfer portal is too valuable right now for the Gamecocks just to fill a recruiting class. The Gamecocks really like who they have right now. Outside of Braden Lee, I don't think that the Gamecocks have much to worry about when it comes to holding on to these commitments. You know, the last 3 games have gone a long way. This is now, 3 Mondays in a row we've had this show, and the Gamecocks are coming out victorious and on the winning end. I think that's given some momentum back. I think having all these recruits be able to come back to Williams-Brice Stadium, multiple weeks in a row, I think that, they're getting more one-on-one time together, more group time together. So this recruiting class is really good. I think when you add Cameron Fountain, maybe when you get Quayshad in there, and maybe you go get a Daniel Hill or another name that we might not know right now or we can't discuss right now. I think that when you go grab one of those guys, you're probably looking at a recruiting class that, when it's all said and done, that's probably top 12 in the country, just on a player rating average. And that's with the punter Mason that the Gamecocks have in the fold as well. And no disrespect to Mason. Mason he's a really, really good punter, but unfortunately punters don't get 5-star status when it comes to recruiting rankings. So that number, that commitment, despite being an awesome player that's really going to help the Gamecocks and probably the best punter in the country, is not helping the recruiting rankings. So really, really excited there for the Gamecocks football team. I think that, I'm saying I'm excited because you guys know at the end of the day, I want the Gamecocks to do well. It's been a lot of fun these last 3 weeks. And, I can't think of a better end of the season for what Gamecock fans have had to endure so far this year, to get bowl eligible, to have a perfect November, and in doing so, get to knock off Clemson one more year, second year in a row. That would be 2 out of 3 for Shane Beamer at South Carolina, 3 for 3 on bowl games, and just some bowl scuttlebutt. If South Carolina is able to get to 6-6, then they will be, the most popular, the most sought after 6-6 team for a bowl game this season. I don't know that if the Gamecocks lose to Clemson, they will actually be able to get to a bowl game at 5-7. I know there's been some rumors about that. One of the latest things that was reported today is that Mississippi State might actually have a better APR than South Carolina and would get the nod due to semantics. But yeah, so the Gamecocks probably have to beat Clemson, and we'll talk about that on Thursday's show. And looking at this, oh my gosh, wow. Big Red is in the house. Big Red, I appreciate you. You are a very, very loyal YouTube watcher, so I appreciate it, man. Xavier Manley says, I'm also pretty sure Cam said that before it was reported that SoCal fired their DC. Big Red, yeah, we're talking about Juice. The juice is loose. Everyone's excited about Juice Wells coming back. Yeah, John, totally agree. Great for Harbor's development as well. Yeah, that's a really good point, Big Red. Harbor doesn't have to be thrust into the mix as needing to be the number 1 guy. I think that, look, there might not be a better wide receiver in the SEC than Juice Wells, and that's just facts. And to get him back next year, that is going to be really big for him too, because I don't think the Juice would have been a, top 5, top 6 round pick. I think he probably would have had to go sixth round, seventh round undrafted. I think that his injury and having to maybe not even be able to test for the combine. I mean, because if he went to the combine and hurt himself, he would be probably taken off draft boards. I think it's a good move for Juice. I think that next year's schedule is going to allow Juice to really be able to showcase his skills. I think it's gonna be a coming out party for Lenore Sellers. Yeah, I'm just laughing right now. Big Red and John are going back and forth about Lenore Sellers. In my best Angels of the Outfield voice, can't forget about JP. Yeah, can't forget about JP. So Juice is not, by the way, for those of you just catching up, I do not believe that Juice is going to play this weekend against Clemson. I don't think he would play in a bowl game. He is going to get 100% ready for next season, is what I understand. So, Juice is back like cooked crack. Heck yeah, Corey Boyd reference there. Love that. I think I had a friend back in the day. His username on like Xbox was Corey Boyd or something. Corey Boyd 3 touchdown or something. I don't know. But he used to yell back like cooked crack at everybody he played video games with online. So that's awesome. Yeah, super excited about that. On the note of football, let's go ahead and talk about another wide receiver who's doing ridiculously big things for the Gamecocks on the football field. I don't think that any of us in our wildest dreams could have seen Xavier Legette doing what Xavier Legette is doing right now. Just another great game. He had 94 yards on 6 catches, 2 touchdowns. Looking at Xavier's stats right now, Xavier now has 1,187 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns on 65 catches. The guy has made himself a lot of money coming back to school. I think he briefly flirted with going to the NFL last year. I think that he made the right decision, but second in the SEC in receiving yards, 1187. I'm going to quickly look and see South Carolina football single season records. So, yeah, Big Red Mullins represent. I know that obviously I don't think that Xavier's going to be able to get to, break Alshon Jeffries. Alshon Jeffries, 1,500 yards or whatever it is. But let's see. So Wikipedia, and guys, if y'all are on Wikipedia right now, please don't mess me up with this. But so receptions. So in a single season, Alshon Jeffrey had 88. Right now, Xavier's at 65. Looking at single season, Alshon Jeffrey does have the record at 1,517. Xavier Legette is now second all time in single season receiving yards. So I'm not going to say it can't happen, but if the Gamecocks get to a bowl game, then Xavier would need, let's do 15-18 to break the record, minus what he has right now, 1187. So he'd need to average 165.5 yards per game receiving to break Alshon's single season record, which I think Alshon actually did that in 14 games because they went to the SEC championship game that year. But yeah, what a season for Xavier Legette. Spencer Rattler just having a phenomenal season as well. Looking at the passing records in a single season, passing yards, Dylan Thompson has that record with 3,564. So far this year, Spencer has 3,074. I predicted that he was going to break this record at the beginning of the season. Hey, he might be able to if the Gamecocks get to a bowl game. So what a crazy turn of events with the Gamecocks have had the last 3 weeks. Obviously getting Juice back. I'm on cloud 9 about that. So far this year, Spencer Rattler has 19 passing touchdowns. I don't think he's going to get 10 more to tie that record, but I mean, if he has a night like he had against Tennessee Saturday night in Williams-Brice, he could potentially get there too. Yeah, so just checking up on some stuff here. Big Red says it could happen, and another Angels in the Outfield reference. Absolutely. Craig says Xavier is no worse than a top 6 wide receiver in the draft. If he runs a sub 4.5 maybe earlier, yeah, I think Xavier is going to run a sub 4.5. I think he's a 4.4 guy, and he plays that fast as well. Sam says Gamecocks can and will get to a bowl game. Case closed. Let's do it. Storybook ending, guys. It'd be a storybook ending. Passing yards off the charts. Can't tell us. S word. Go Gamecocks. Yeah. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Big Red is kind of a draftnik, NFL draftnik. He goes really deep into the NFL draft. So take his word for NFL draftees over mine. Craig, yeah, we already gave a shout out to the quarter zip. Paris, that is a fresh pullover. I need to get my hands on one of those. Need to reach out to Carrie Rich and see if I can get my hands on one of those. If not, maybe I'll put it on my Christmas list. But going back to the Gamecocks win over Kentucky, we really haven't talked about it at all so far on this show. Gamecocks got out to a quick lead, 10-0. I really thought that the Gamecocks were going to just blow Kentucky out of the water. We hate that holding penalty when the Gamecocks were down to the Kentucky 2-yard line, had to settle for a field goal. Could have easily made it a 14-0 game at that point. Kentucky answered back, and look, Kentucky's always been a team, as JC says, that wants to put you in their spider web and just lull you to sleep and just, once you're in the spider web, you can't get out. And Kentucky tried to do that to South Carolina this past weekend. Obviously, Xavier Legette was just a man among boys. Spencer Rattler was a man among boys when they needed to be. Gamecocks end up scoring a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Looking at the play-by-play here, though, and actually I want to look at the box score because the Gamecocks, let's see, Spencer did not have an interception, and the Gamecocks lost 0 fumbles. Devin Leary threw an interception, and Kentucky lost 2 fumbles. So that's three turnovers to 0. Most of the time, you're going to win a game when that happens. I mean, just ask Perry Orth next time he comes on Inside the Gamecocks. Perry Orth has this awesome formula that can tell you when a team's going to win or when they're going to lose. But I would say the Gamecocks probably had maybe three or 4 of those 5 things that Perry talks about all the time. Devin Leary was Devin Leary. I've been saying this all season long. He was 17 of 34 for 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He's a 57% pass completion rate on the season. He's just not impressive, and the Gamecocks took advantage of that. Ray Davis didn't have the humongous game that we were worried about. Yeah, he got loose and got into the end zone on a 31-yard touchdown, but he didn't put up the numbers he put up against Florida. Kentucky did have 122 yards on the ground. The Gamecocks only had 50, but the Gamecocks just played really good on defense. I mean, they only had, they had 3 tackles for loss and 2 sacks in the game, but the defense just stood strong all game long. And it was an opportunity I felt like the Gamecocks probably could have had, they probably could have forced another 2 or 3 turnovers and maybe taken some of those to the house. Unfortunately, I mentioned earlier, I was not at the game this past weekend. I see Sam talking about Darude was at the game, and he had a concert before it. Everything looked absolutely electric on TV. Hearing the fans, the crowd. For those of you that were at the game, can you kind of tell us what the atmosphere was like? I mean, it was just cool to see him there. Craig, yeah, good point there. We dodged a few deep shots that Leary had guys open, but to your point, he's just not that accurate. I don't know if y'all are able to catch the Kentucky Sports Radio guys after the game. On the Big Spur, this got posted, and I try to be as unbiased as I can on this show, but I can tell you right now that the Kentucky Sports Radio guys were hurting after the loss to South Carolina. I really thought that they were going to cry, actually. But this is just another case where South Carolina, and I was listening to Inside the Gamecocks, and I want to reiterate their point today. South Carolina is a better program than Kentucky. South Carolina should expect to beat Kentucky more often than not. And, that Gamecocks have won now, I think, either 3 or 4 out of the last 5 games against Kentucky. I think it's 3 out of the last 5, outside of the 6-game skid. But Gamecocks are 20-14-1 all time against Kentucky. It looks like they're going to be the Gamecocks' permanent opponent in SEC play going forward. I think that bodes well for South Carolina. I think that South Carolina is definitely on the come up, even despite this season that nobody wanted, and nobody wanted to be, fighting for, bowl eligibility the last game of the season. But I think that better things are ahead for South Carolina, and getting Juice back really helps that. I think that we've all talked about Lenore Sellers, what he did against Vanderbilt, what he did against Furman. He got into the game for South Carolina this past week, had 2 carries for 9 yards along to 5. Maybe we're going to see a Lenore's package this week against Clemson. Probably talk about that a little bit later in the week on Thursday night's show. Looking at the play-by-play, though, I always like to kind of look through here. The Gamecocks forced a punt, 3-play, 2-minute and 22-second drive for Kentucky to start the game. Gamecocks then went 11 plays in 5 minutes and 11 seconds for 69 yards to get the Gamecocks up 7-0. Forced another punt for Kentucky, 3 plays, negative 12 yards. Gamecocks then got a field goal, 12 plays, 51 yards. They probably should have scored a touchdown there. Kentucky did answer with a touchdown of their own, 12 plays, 75-yard drive. And that was the end. That was, 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. It was kind of a boring game the rest of that first half. Gamecocks did force 2 turnovers, but weren't able to capitalize on them. Second half, Gamecocks went punt. Kentucky scored a touchdown. They traded punts for a while. Gamecocks ended up scoring that last touchdown on a 9-play, 74-yard drive that took 5 minutes and 32 seconds off the clock. 3rd and 9 at the Kentucky 17. Spencer hit Xavier Legette for a 17-yard touchdown to give the Gamecocks the lead. Gamecocks forced a punt on Kentucky's next possession. Gamecocks had to punt themselves back to Kentucky, but then they forced a fumble. Gamecocks just played. They played well enough to win the game. They didn't play well enough to dominate the game. I'll put it that way. But a win is a win is a win, and the Gamecocks will definitely take it at this juncture of the season. So, looking around in the chat box here, we got a lot of NFL draft talk here. Craig was just listing a group of 6. Big Red's going in on the draft class for wide receivers. Craig, those procedural penalties are going to drive me crazy. Look, we'll talk a little bit about Clemson here just because I think that we have to. We only get this week 1 week out of the year, so we're going to celebrate it. Look, I'm not taking anything away from Clemson. Clemson has gotten off the mat. Tyler, I guess, sparked something in Dabo and sparked something in the team, if you want to believe Clemson fans. But I'm not taking anything away from them beating North Carolina. Obviously, the Gamecocks couldn't do that to start the season. I think that even the most biased Clemson fan could have seen a scenario where North Carolina was winning the game 21-0 early in that game against Clemson. Had a couple of just fluke things that happened, and not fluke. I mean, what happened on the field happened, and that's it. But it's not very often that you see a guy fumble going into the end zone. It seems like it's happening more and more right now. That took 7 points off the board. I think that there was an interception, and there was a couple other weird things that happened in that North Carolina Clemson game. It kind of felt like North Carolina had the shoe on the other foot, like we had against them to open the season. Georgia Tech's a decent enough football team, but there's not much credit that I wouldn't give any team in the country, even teams not named Clemson, for beating Georgia Tech. And then Notre Dame game, they answered, and good on them. I think that we're probably seeing the best version of Clemson right now. Maybe both sets of teams are peaking at the right time between South Carolina and Clemson. I don't think that Clemson is going to want to put the ball on the air very often against South Carolina this week. I think that they're going to try and run the ball. I think I saw that Clemson had 55 rushes this past week against North Carolina. This has the potential to be a fourth quarter game, just like the Gamecocks had against Kentucky this past week. I think that the Gamecocks obviously have to avoid stupid turnovers, pick sixes. Really, just they're not good enough yet to be able to shoot themselves in the foot on a drive or two and hold Clemson down. Like, you cannot make those mistakes. Clemson has always been a team of momentum. When you let Clemson get momentum, they are going to make you pay for it. I don't know what the answer is to sell out to stop the run. The Gamecocks haven't been that great at it this year. Clemson has a lot of turnovers this season. Is that something where the turnovers are just going to stop now? Maybe they, the law of regression states that, they're not going to turn it over 3 or 4 times this upcoming weekend at South Carolina. I know that the stadium will be electric. I know that Gamecock fans are going to be loud. I think there's going to be a lot of Clemson fans there. Clemson usually brings about 8,000 to 10,000 fans every year to South Carolina, and that's no different this year. Clemson would absolutely love to stop the Gamecocks from bowling this year. Clemson's not going to the ACC championship. They're not going to a New Year's Day bowl. They're not going to the college football playoffs. This is their championship this weekend. And if you don't think that Dabo and the Clemson staff is preaching that message and wanting to embarrass Shane Beamer in South Carolina, then you're mistaken. That's what they want to do this weekend. And South Carolina has to go out there and earn it. Just absolutely earn it. We'll make predictions later in the week. But yeah, I think that, for Gamecock fans, like I said earlier, this is the best possible outcome to the season. If Gamecocks lose, it's going to absolutely be terrible, and it's not going to be fun, and we're going to have to hear about it for 365 days. Clemson might be the worst team in the history of their program this year, and they stopped the Gamecocks from going bowling, and they beat South Carolina. So nobody wants to hear it. Everybody that's on this show is hoping that the Gamecocks find a way to get it done. I know I am. So we'll see what happens, and we'll break that game down in more detail on Thursday's show. Looking at this right now, Big Red says Tyler ain't real. I know Mike Morgan thinks Tyler's real. I'll trust Mike Morgan on that stuff, who's been doing this for a long time and actually been a part of those coaches' calls. I'll trust Mike on that one. Sam says the Clemson game is looked forward to more than Christmas. It really is. A lot of things, the older you get, you want bragging rights over your friends, and, you can have a great Christmas and have a great Christmas with family, friends, loved ones, and all that. But, I know that I look forward to the Carolina Clemson game more than Thanksgiving, because I see my family and I love my family, but I want the Gamecocks to beat Clemson. Big Red says that, Fulwiley is female Allen Iverson. Yeah, Kyrie Irving, Allen Iverson, definitely. Craig says she plays like a dude, and that's a huge compliment. Yeah, she moves different. She absolutely does. Craig says Shipley and Moffa scare me. Yeah, they scare the crap out of me too. I think that individually they're really good running backs. I think that Clemson's offensive line has gotten better as the season has come along, but they're by no means a great offensive line. It's going to be loud in Williams-Brice Stadium, and I think that the same way that Clemson's had a whole bunch of home games lately, so is South Carolina. South Carolina just gets the benefit of the game being in Williams-Brice Saturday night. Before we hop off the show tonight, does anybody have their own predictions for the South Carolina Clemson game this weekend? No men's basketball this weekend. I don't know the women's schedule. I know they play tonight. But anybody got predictions on y'all's end for South Carolina Clemson football game? I'll give y'all a couple minutes. I'm actually, as we're talking, I'm checking the Monday Night Football game, see what's going on. I'm holding on to a small lead in my League of Gamecocks Fantasy Football League. I don't know if Mean Bean Machine is playing or is watching tonight, but we have been in an absolute dogfight. So you got to check that out. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm up by 21. I have Isaiah Pacheco and Devontae Smith and he has Jalen, or not Jalen. Yeah, Jalen Hurts. I want to say Jalen Warren. Craig says everyone on Cornblute's show tonight picked Clemson. I think that's going to be the popular thing to do, Craig. I think that Clemson's favored by 7.5 for a reason. I don't think you're going to see a lot of people picking South Carolina. I don't know who I'm going to pick. I'll just be honest with you guys. My heart says South Carolina, but I don't know. It's going to be something. We'll just have to see. Let's see. Thanks, Phil. Phil's giving me updates on the Monday Night Football game. Everybody pull for Phil. He needs AJ Brown to score 3.4 more points than Rashee Rice tonight. So good vibes your way, Phil. I appreciate that. With that being said, that's really all the time we have tonight. We try to keep this to right around 45 minutes. Really quick before we go, Craig says, see my turnover stat up in the chat earlier. I'm going to go look for that, Craig. Craig, good chat there. Craig says 10-0 now at home when we get at least a turnover, 0-3 when we don't. So I'm assuming that's in the Shane Beamer era. Is that correct, Craig? Shane Beamer era? Yeah, turnovers are a big deal. Really big deal. Got to get them. I think the Gamecocks will have an opportunity. The Clemson running backs have put the ball on the ground, and the Clemson quarterback, Kay Klubnik, has put the ball in harm's way a lot this season. So let's find a way to get some turnovers. Thanks, Craig. Craig says 10-0 at home under Shane Beamer when the Gamecocks force at least one turnover. So guys, happy Thanksgiving. I'm really excited for everyone to have time with family and friends. Obviously, we love having Big Saturday when the Gamecocks and Clemson will renew their rivalry under the lights on Williams-Brice. Guys, I really appreciate you joining me as always. You guys give me the most invaluable thing you have, which is your time. I never ever take that for granted. So thank you guys for being here tonight, and gals, for all the ladies out there. Go Gamecocks, and we will all get together on 1 week from today, and hopefully be celebrating a Gamecock win. Go Cox, and talk to you all soon.